it gonna save us something about the spheres? I think it probably will. That's okay. Hello everyone. Today, as you can see, I have my here my computer, and we're going to be ranking every single rental Pokemon in Pokemon Battle Revolution. In this tier list, as you can see, I have everyone's favorite tiers. S, A, B, C, D, E, and very bad. I will be using all of them. For at least one Pokemon, I imagine. Um, Here are all the rental Pokemon. They're all in this box right here. This is every one of them. There are 6 passes with 6 Pokemon each. For a total of 36 obtainable Pokemon. And I have them in order of when they appear on every pass. So yeah. I know when I was live streaming this game, I did give star after rankings to a lot of Pokemon. But not all of them, and I wanted to have a space to kind of talk about all of them because I have a lot to say because I think a lot of them are bad. But I think some of them are actually very good. But with all that out of the way, let's start with Ivysaur. Ivysaur is pretty bad. It has one thing going for it, and that is toxic. It is the only toxic user in the game. That is the only reason why I feel anyone would want to use this thing. It is the only one of its kind in terms of that. Toxic isn't particularly good in this format because it's 3v3s or 4v4 doubles, and in doubles this thing's not very good. It has no spread. Its only offensive moves are Magical Leaf and Cut. Cut, of course, is very bad. Magical Leaf is kind of mediocre. I think as an early game Pokemon, it kind of does okay. It isn't one of the first 2 passes you can obtain. But even so, I think it's completely outclassed by almost every other Pokemon in the game. But it does have Toxic, and because it has Toxic, I'm going to put it in E tier. But that's not good. Speaking of E tier Pokemon, Charmeleon. Charmeleon's also an E tier. This Charmeleon is a physical Charmeleon. It's Fire Fang Bite, which is admittedly decent coverage, but it's a special attacking Pokemon, and they made it physical. It also has Dragon Rage, which is very helpful early game, as it can kind of 2-hit KO a lot of Pokemon up until you get to probably about the Neon Coliseum, and that's when this thing, and it does pretty okay in the Neon Coliseum, but once you're after that, this thing falls off really hard. But it's decent early game. You'll probably bring it to a handful of battles, and then its usability will kind of tail off after that, I think. Actually, I'm going to put it in D tier, because I think it's actually decent early game, when you don't have many options. But the moment you get new options, you're never using Charmeleon again, or you might bring it out once or twice in Sunny Park Coliseum, but that would be it. This Pokemon is not very good. Next we have Wartortle. Oh, I forgot to mention, Charmeleon does have Sunny Day. It's one of the Sunny Day setters in the game. I mentioned that, remember that because Wartortle is one of your 3 Rain Dance setters in the entire game. And I think it's the worst one of the batch. This Pokemon is very, very bad. It knows Water Pulse, which is its offensive stab move. Which is good, I guess. It can take some hits early game. It's a decent early game tank, even though you have 4, 5, 6, 7 better tanks, I would say. This thing just kind of gets demolished in double battles. It has Rock Smash, which is very mediocre coverage. It has Yawn. Yawn is actually good. Yawn is the one thing that almost made me put Wartortle in E tier. just because that one move is very, very good. As it applies a lot of pressure, it forces swaps, it can definitely get you out of bad positions, but you're just gonna have to deal with it later though. But it can get you a free hit onto whatever swaps in, or it'll put a Pokemon to sleep. Either is good. The problem is War Turtle doesn't do very much damage on swap-ins typically, unless they're swapping into a super effective move for Water Pulse. So in that regard, it's not that great, but it can set up Rain on that swap turn, and then with Rain boosted Water Pulse with Stab, it can do pretty decent damage, but that requires a turn to set up Rain, and this thing has to live, and it's very slow. Even early game when you're up against Pokemon that are like it's super mediocre, it's still very slow. It's just it's just not good. The War Turtle's just bad. I rated it 2 Staraptors out of 10 when I first got it and I first talked about it, and I stand by that pretty much. It really is a 2 Staraptor out of 10 Pokemon. It's pretty bad. Dragonair is actually alright. I'm gonna put Dragonair in C tier. I think it's very mediocre. But it's mediocre is really all you need early game, and it can definitely hold its own throughout parts of the mid game. It has Dragon Breath, Shockwave, Thunder Wave, and Twister. And it's holding a Citrus Berry, and that Citrus Berry, and its ability is Shed Skin. This is the first time I talked about items or abilities, because all the items on these 3 Pokemon don't matter, and the abilities on these 3 Pokemon don't matter. Shed Skin is a very nice utility ability. It gets you out of some bad jams. Thunder Wave, of course, can hit them with status for confirmed paralysis, which is nice. I don't think it's the best status move in this game, but I think having it is better than not having it. Because Citrus Berry, this thing acts as a tank, combined with its 4 resisted types of fire, water, grass, and electric, which are very common, especially early game. And fire is actually very common late game, so this thing definitely has some swap-in utility, at the very least in singles. I think it can kind of get overran a little bit in doubles, but I think this thing can definitely tear people apart. It's very strong. It's not very strong. I know I say it's very strong. It's very strong early game, in terms of its damage output. But that damage output will fall off as you progress. However, its tankiness will remain around for much longer. It's a pretty solid filler Pokemon. It can inflict status. It can hit both a Pokemon in a double battle with Twister. So it has a lot going for it. In terms of using it beyond just the early game, even though I think I dropped it. I can definitely see you making this thing useful, even beyond the Sunny Park Coliseum into the late game. Even though I think it's very lackluster at that point, which is why it's in C tier. It's not good throughout the entire game. From the point you get it to the end, it's not good. But it is serviceable, I think, in end game. It's very good early game. Maybe that's enough for B tier. Am I going to talk myself into B tier for Dragonair? Because I do believe, to a degree, it is serviceable. I don't think it's serviceable. I think it's kind of bad in the Courtyard Coliseum. But I think that's its worst Coliseum. Because I think it does okay in Stargazer. Because you can definitely, there's electric types, there's fire types, there's grass types. Yeah, I actually think it's okay in Stargazer. It's not going to do much against Mysterio. But I think, I actually think this Pokemon's not bad. If used properly, this Pokemon's definitely serviceable in late game, and it's very good early game. It's probably your 3rd, 4th best Pokemon early game. I think Dragonair is pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna put in. Yeah, I've just talked myself into making this Pokemon B tier. Did not expect to do that. But yeah, it's not actually that bad. Next we have Ryhorn. Ryhorn's our first C tier Pokemon. It was really gonna be your second C tier Pokemon, but Ryhorn is barely C tier. I think it's just good enough to be C tier because I think it's definitely better than Charmeleon. Ryhorn struggles from a lot of issues that Pokemon in this game have. Ivysaur has the same problem, and that's called not dual stab syndrome. It doesn't have dual stab. It only has dig as its only stab move. They gave it Ice Fang, which is pretty decent coverage, but I would have much rather just had Rock Slide or Rock Tomb or any rock move. They also gave it Horn Attack, so it has a bad move pool. Its last move is Protect, which is admittedly kind of nice, but it doesn't save its move pool. Even though it's one of the few Pokemon in the game that actually gets Protect, so credit where credit is due, it does get Protect. What can I say about Ryhorn? Ryhorn, it's tanky. It gets Protect. It's a decent defensive Pokemon. I'm a lot more afraid of going against it than actually using it. I don't think it's very helpful when you use it, and I think it's very dangerous when your opponent has it. I learned that in the Neon Coliseum. There's a chance that your opponent takes some of your Pokemon, and they took Ryhorn, I think, twice, and it was very scary. I had to have a dedicated way to deal with it, and if you don't, you can literally just get swept by this thing. So I would actually recommend not bringing it into the Neon Coliseum, so you don't have the chance to lose to it. But I think your opponents it's not super good against a lot of opponents, though. A lot of opponents have grass types in this game. There's a lot of water types in this game. It's super weak to special attacks. It's weak to ice. It's weak to steel. Flash Cannon's a move it's not really that common, but there's a few users of Flash Cannon as well. You're going to be using Protect a lot on this thing. You're going to be trying to like stall for time with Dig with this thing. This is really like a defensive doubles Pokemon. But it does do well in singles early game. I used it a fair amount in singles, in the early game areas that are singles. I think it's decent in the Neon Coliseum. I think it's almost, actually, and that's where it kind of drops off. I think beyond that, I think it's pretty mediocre. You just have better options at that point. But it's serviceable in early game. Actually, I'm gonna put it in Charmeleon. It's serviceable in early game and kind of tails off. Next up we have Pidgeot. Pidgeot's easy A tier. I almost want to put this thing in S tier. Because I used this thing throughout the entire game. Off and on. It wasn't my only flying type. I used Avia as well. And I was tempted to use Goldbat at times, but this thing is destructive. It's one of the best doubles Pokemon in the game on account of its access to Tailwind. It's the only Tailwind Pokemon in the game. It also has Facade, which is 70 base power, and negates the effects of Burn, and it will boost its attack power if under status conditioned. So Facade is incredibly strong. Aerial Ace is a decent other stab move. He actually has 2 stabs, which is very nice. And then his last move is Sand Attack, which I don't think I ever used one time. So it does only have 3 real moves, but with one of your moves is Tailwind, that's all you really need. You need Tailwind and 2 attacks. This thing's bulky enough to take hits throughout the entire adventure of the main story. So that's a huge bonus for it as well. And that's basically what it is. You have this Pokemon that can basically take hits for you for the entire adventure. And that's the main deal. There's nothing else that this Pokemon really does. It takes hits, it can deal decent damage, and it can set up Tailwind, so it's good in singles because it takes hits and does damage. It's good in doubles because it can set Tailwind and then get some extra chip utility out of it. It transitions from being your main sweeper to a bulky support Pokemon over the course of the game, which I think is very strange. It's really weird that it goes from what is essentially an offensive damage dealer to that secondary support Pokemon as the game progresses. But it will always retain usability as one of your better Pokemon, just because Tailwind is so strong. Just because Tailwind is so strong. Alright, so that is the end of the first pass. The second pass is also obtainable at the very beginning of the game. You just go to the Gateway Coliseum. If you pick the Kanto Pass, you can just go to the Gateway Coliseum immediately and get these next 6 Pokemon. So they're also available at the very beginning of the game, and I think this pass is actually better as a whole, even though it has even though it has 2 bad Pokemon. I think this pass it has a lot of bad Pokemon. Half of it's bad, but we'll get to that. Starting with Grotto. Grotto's C tier. So Grotto feels like Ryhorn with a better type and the ability to do way more in doubles. Grotto has Leech Seed. Grotto feels like a doubles Pokemon to me. It can perform fairly alright in singles in early game, but his singles utility does fall off in early game. But I think it's always useful in doubles just because it's tanky enough to take a hit or two. And thanks to Leech Seed, it can gain back health over time, and if it falls, that health goes to other Pokemon. So the AI doesn't really switch for Leech Seed, I find. It has Razor Leaf, so it can do double chip. It has Rock Smash, which is kind of bleh. And that's pretty much its full moveset. I might be missing one move. Am I missing one move? I'm missing Bite. Yeah, it has Bite, which is another coverage move. You will never be flinching with it, but maybe you can get a super effective Bite at some point. I think it's decent in doubles, but I think it doesn't have the stats beyond Sunny Park to really be viable. But it's good enough until you get. I mean, it's good enough for about 2/3 of the game before eventually it's like, wow, man, if only this was Torterra. Next, we have Monferno. Monferno is one of the best Pokemon in the entire game. Monferno is also A tier. Monferno is an absolute beast early game. It is a physical sweeper. It's a mixed sweeper, actually, because it has Grass Knot. It has Fire Grass. It has Fire Fighting Grass coverage, and Mach Punch, Fire Punch, and Grass Knot. This allows it to basically dominate a large portion of opponents. That's just really good coverage. It has Mach Punch, which is also priority. It also has Sunny Day, so it can set up Sun, which is decent if you have nothing better to do, or you're running the Sun team, the Sun rental team, which is actually not awful, but I don't think it's that good. But Monferno is totally viable throughout the entire game. It destroys things early game. And then as it progresses, it still destroys things in mid game, but not as many things. And then in the late game, it starts to fall off in terms of killing things in one hit, but it will basically 2-hit KO. It is still 2-hit to 3-hit KOs. Anything, it's pretty dominant throughout the game. It does start to fall off in terms of speed, so you're definitely going to want to pair it with Pidgeot for Tailwind, because it will fall off in terms of speed. And Mach Punch just isn't strong enough at that point. But it definitely has the ability to be really, really good, and it just dominates 2/3 of the game. At a point where the majority of the other Pokemon kind of fall off and become basically useless, Monferno will stay afloat and be one of your better Pokemon even then. Which I personally don't like, because I personally don't like Monferno, but it is very good. Just the fire fighting grass coverage just really saves this Pokemon, I think. So we have Prinplup. Prinplup is very mediocre. I tried to use it in the Magma Coliseum to see if it had any viability beyond the early game. And it doesn't. I consider Magma Coliseum late game. It actually did take Sandslash's Earthquake to the face and live, but it didn't live well. But it did live. So that is something. But Prinplup, it just doesn't have the stats. I think it does War Turtle. War Turtle wants to be Prinplup. I think it has Prinplup's got Water Pulse. It actually has 2 coverage moves in Pluck and Metal Claw, and it has an Iron Plate, which buffs the power of Metal Claw. So you actually have way better coverage than you do with War Turtle. as you can actually hit grass types for super effective, which is very nice. Metal Claw doesn't really do much for you. Also, you're a special attacker, and all of your coverage is physical, so that's a problem. But yeah, this thing's not very good. It can also set up Rain Dance. I think it's the best Rain Dance setter in the game. Or actually, it's arguably the best Rain Dance setter in the game. I don't know. I just don't think this Pokemon is just not very good. It's decent. It's your better water type early game, and it's helpful against teams filled with fire types. But beyond that, it's not very good. That's why I thought it'd be good in the Magma Coliseum, but it just, as it turns out, it just isn't even good there. It's just after the Waterfall Coliseum, this thing just completely becomes borderline useless. It's very bad. It's not very bad, but it's pretty bad. Next we have Gabite. Gabite's a fillermon. I think it's better than these. I think it's better than Charmeleon. Gabite's a fillermon. It's got a lot of problems with it. It wants to be a lot like Dragonair, but because it has a Sky Plate and not Citrus Berry, it does not have that bulk that it wants to have. And it's also not very good special defensively anyway. So it kind of gets bodied by like a lot of special attacks that are not even super effective. Also, it suffers from best attacking move is weaker stat syndrome. It has Dragon Pulse, and it's a physical attacker. So more often than not, Aerial Ace is actually going to be more damage, which is not stab. It's pretty sad. And then it also has Sand Tomb, which is its only ground type move. Well, it's not. No, wait. Does it have another ground type move? It does. It has Sand Attack. Very cool. But yeah, it has Sand Tomb. It can partial trap. I don't know. No one uses Sand Tomb. This Pokemon just isn't very good. It's arguably better than Ryhorn on the account that it has a way better type and is also pretty decent bulk, but I don't know. I don't think it's very good. Next we have Luxio. Luxio is the worst Pokemon in the entire game. It starts off in early game, and you have it throughout the entire game, which means it has good availability. But it literally just can't do anything. Like in the Gateway Coliseum, which is the first Coliseum you get the chance to play with this thing, it got 2-hit KO'd by Delibird and failed to kill it in one shot with Spark. And that should tell you everything you need to know about Luxio. But I'm gonna go in a little more depth. Luxio does have one thing going for it, and that is priority. That is quick attack. It does have that. You're not gonna be killing things with quick attack, but it does have it. So if it does live before it goes down, you can hit something with quick attack. I will give it that. It also has the very cool ability Rivalry, and by very cool I mean one of the worst ever made. It makes it stronger against Pokemon of the same gender, but weaker against Pokemon of the opposite gender. So sometimes it just is a negative ability, and sometimes the positive buff doesn't really matter. So yeah, this Pokemon blows. Yeah, Luxio sucks. Oh, and that Delibird used Aurora Beam, by the way. Not even Ice Beam. Aurora Beam. So next we have Staravia. Staravia is A tier. So Staravia is more of a pure support bird, without having any support moves. Essentially what it does is that it uses Intimidate to lower the opponent's attack, and then it uses U-turn to switch out, and then you bring it back out later to lower a different Pokemon's attack. It kind of plays this switch in, switch out game to maximize Intimidate. It also has Aerial Ace and Takedown, so it has Dual Stab. And then its last move is Defog, which is crucial in the Courtyard Coliseum. which means you definitely want to take this thing into endgame, and it is to the second to last. It's not endgame, but it's the one right before endgame, so it's useful in late game, which is very nice. And it definitely, and you can bring it to any Coliseum. It's not gonna be hurting you too much. It does the same thing that Pidgeot does, where it's a destructive sweeper early game, and progresses into a more support Pokemon as you progress. But it's still very good. It's still gonna kill things. I think it has better offense in terms of stab aerial ace than Pidgeot. I think Facade is better than Takedown in general. But Takedown is better if you want for the raw extra 10 damage on it. But I think Staryu is very good. I think Intimidate is one of the best abilities in the game, especially since a lot of these battles are double battles. And even singles, Intimidate's still really good. Since there's very few Pokemon with competitive, and Defiant is not yet an ability. Intimidate was crazy. Intimidate's crazy. It's so good. And that is the end of the opening 12 mons. These are the only ones available in the early game. And you're probably going to be using these. You're dropping these for pretty much as soon as you get the chance. These are really the only ones that you're going to use in that time. I mean, you can use you can use these two, I guess. They're not the worst. Next up, we get into our second two sets. These next 12 Pokemon are available from the early mid game. Well, actually, I guess it's just mid game. They're available from mid game to end game, and it's from Sandslash to Lumineon. Are available from mid game to end game. They're available as soon as the Neon Coliseum opens, even though they're not actually that helpful in the Neon Coliseum because your opponent can steal them from you. So they are available from that point onwards. Sandslash is the first one up, and I think it's okay. Sandslash, if you only have 5 Pokemon on your core team and you don't really know what your last Pokemon should be, I guess I can recommend Sandslash in that spot. I feel like you're gonna have 6 better Pokemon than Sandslash by the time you get it, but I'll put it at the top of D tier. I think it's a pretty decent filler mon throughout the entire game. It's got Dig. I don't really like Dig, so maybe not. But it has Dig and it has Rock Tomb, so it has the Quake Edge coverage. But worse. It's worse Quake Edge, but it does have that coverage, and that coverage is very good. And I believe it also has Aerial Ace. Is that right? Yes, it does. It also has Aerial Ace, so that is additional coverage that's going to be super effective against grass types and bug types, which you don't really need the bug one, but it's something, I suppose. So it has that going for it. It's not super great, but it's tanky enough. It's decent in mid game, and then it's tanky enough in end game to warrant some use, maybe. I never really touched this thing outside of when you first get it in the Gateway Coliseum. But I imagine that it could be useful. It, on paper, could be useful, but I fail to see a significant point to use it. I think it struggles significantly in double battles, and I think it's okay to decent in singles. But by the time you get it, the majority of the battles remaining are doubles, which kind of blows. Next up, we have Haunter. Haunter's an easy S tier. I think Haunter is the best Pokemon in this game, and I don't think there's a question. Why is Haunter the best Pokemon in this game? Because that's 115 special attacking stat with a 90 base power special move. It's disgusting. It has Sludge Bomb, Stab, 90 base power on its massive special attack stat. Pretty much kills everything in the mid game, and 2 hits KOs almost everything in the end game that does not resist Sludge Bomb. And if you have something that resists Sludge Bomb that's not a poison type, you can smack it with Giga Drain. And that'll be super effective. This thing does get walled out by other poison types, though. So that is its one kind of big weakness. But even then, you can hit it with Hypnosis. So even then it has utility. They gave it a wide lens so that Hypnosis hits more often. So it has that, which is huge. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's very frail though. You do have to be careful with this thing. If this thing is not outspeeding opponent's Pokemon, it probably will die. If your opponent's got a Shadow Claw Dugtrio, this thing's out of here. Shadow Sneak applies a lot of pressure to this thing. I don't think Shadow Sneak from anything one-hit kills it, except for Bayonets. So you gotta worry about that. But Haunter is very scary. It is a glass cannon in every sense of the word, and I think it is the best Pokemon in the game. It's just so strong, and it hits everything so hard. Its last move is Curse, which I think I used twice in the entire game, but it's better than a lot of like Sand Attack and stuff. So it has that for it. Next we have Metang. Metang's a pretty decent C tier Pokemon. It's a decent wall for you. There's not a lot of defensive Pokemon I rate very high. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think that's a pretty fair spot for it. I think it's better than Grotto. I think it's that much better than Grotto. Metang has suffers from the my best attacking stat is my wrong stat move. My best attacking move is the wrong stat syndrome. He has Psychic. He's a physical attacker, and his only physical moves are Metal Claw and Takedown. Takedown's kind of bad. I let it slide for Staravia because it's stab, but Takedown on Metang is not very good because it does recoil and it's not stab. Metal Claw, you're almost always going to use over it, so it's basically a wasted move slot. Its last move is Magnet Rise, which I guess is okay if they telegraph their move with Dig, which not very many opposing trainers have. They give you a lot of Pokemon with Dig, or a few Pokemon with Dig, but typically your opponent's Pokemon don't have Dig, so I don't know. It's okay if you're going up against ground types, I guess, but I don't think I ever used it once. It combos pretty well with faster Pokemon who can switch out. Things like Staravia and Goldbat, which you get later on, are definitely good pairs with this thing. And I think it does alright in singles, but I think in doubles it kind of is not as good. Can you tell that I don't like defensive Pokemon in doubles? Not that I think all defensive Pokemon in doubles are bad. I said Grotto is better in doubles, and it's a defensive Pokemon. But in general, I'm not super big on not fully evolved defensive Pokemon in doubles that can't apply pressure. And this thing does not apply very much pressure. I find that even early on, when you first get it in the mid game, I immediately used it in the the Crystal Coliseum, and it was struggling to apply pressure, which is really bad because that's what this thing. You want a defensive Pokemon that can apply some pressure, whether that's through Leech Seed or status conditions or damage or raw damage, and this thing doesn't really. It's not super great at doing that, which is the big issue with Metang. But it's a pretty decent wall. It's definitely usable, at the very least in the mid game, and to an extent in the late game. I don't think it's bad. Next we have B-Barrel. B-Barrel's a bulky sweeper in this game. It has Waterfall, it has Hyper Fang. Those are two very good moves that have a chance to flinch. It also has Swagger, which can confuse your opponent's Pokemon. And that's just pretty solid utility to have. And it also just can win games with a double team. I think this is a better Pokemon in singles than doubles, but I think if you pair this thing up with a Tailwind, it can definitely kind of go off. It can definitely go off if you pair this thing with a Tailwind, because it's one of the stronger Pokemon in the game. It's right up there with Haunter for being and Monferno for being one of the better sweepers in terms of raw damage. So I think it's pretty consistent, actually, as well. And it's fairly fast in terms of Pokemon you can get in this game. I think it gets outsped by a lot of opposing Pokemon, unfortunately, but I think it's actually faster than every single Pokemon below it at this current point in time. And it's really only outsped by its Pokemon above it. I think it's faster than Dragonair as well, but I think B-Barrel's not that bad. I think it gets overlooked because it's B-Barrel, but it's not that bad. It can do real damage, which is something that... And it's tanky enough to take hits, so... It's a decent. It's a decent swap in if you need a stall a few turns as well. So it's got things going for it. Next we have Rotom. Rotom sucks. This Rotom kind of blows. I'm gonna put it in E tier. The problem with this Rotom, I think for me, is that I'm unlucky, and this Rotom is so luck dependent. You like 3 of this Pokemon's 4 moves are luck based, and then the other ones reflect. like that's not even a bit. It's got Charge Beam, it has Ominous Wind, and it has Confuse Ray. All 3 of which are moves that proc based on chance. So this is a gambler's Pokemon, and I'm not super big on gambling in a game like this. I've lost. I don't know. I've never lost a battle because Rotom because I don't normally bring it, but I think it's really bad because sometimes it just dies. It's also frail. Like, it's frail. It really relies on an Ominous Wind boost to get up the defenses, and then it can really play the game. But if you get like 1 or 2 Ominous Wind boosts, you can kind of win. Charge Beam is a chance to boost special attack, which is kind of nice, but it's like 70% chance, so it's actually fairly consistent, but it's not consistent enough. So sometimes you just hit it twice and like it does no damage and you don't get the special attack boost, and then this thing just dies because it's not that strong. But yeah, so Rotom kind of sucks. Rotom in the games now competitively is actually good. Not this Rotom though. It's only the alternate forms which you can't obtain. You're stuck with a base Rotom, and it just isn't very good. But yeah, Rotom sucks. Next up we have Mightyanna. Mightyanna is one of the best Pokemon in the game. I'm actually gonna put it above Pidgeot. I think this Mightyanna is very good. It has Intimidate. It has Fire, Ice, Dark coverage. And it has an Expert Belt. This means it with Ice Fang and Fire Fang and Bite, you would be surprised that if this thing is super effective, it's probably killing. The 1.2 times damage with Expert Belt may not sound like a lot on paper, but it really does make the difference against a lot of Pokemon. When you swap it in, off of say a U-turn or something, it gets an Intimidate, which can additionally help against physical attackers. This thing's biggest weakness is special attacking Pokemon, particularly those like Lucario who would have Aura Sphere. Right? I don't think there's except you don't run into a Lucario in this game. You don't run into any special attacking fighting type Pokemon in this game. I think there's one Pokemon that like knows Focus Blast. And, well, if you get hit by Focus Blast, then I'm sorry, but yeah, that's almost never the case. So like your biggest weaknesses are the like, Signal Beam, which I don't remember seeing in the entire game as well. A lot of the things that beat Mightyanna, like the real hardest counters to Mightyanna, don't exist. Like the most dangerous things are physical fighting type moves, which after Intimidate and the Pidgeot on your team, probably you're not gonna have to deal with, and it can pretty much be pretty good at anything else. And if you're that scared of stuff, it does have Protect, which is something that I can't say about the rest of the Pokemon. So it's got 3 coverage moves. It's got decent Stab and Bite, 2 good coverage moves, and Protect. And really, there's very little, and a great ability in Intimidate, and a useful item in Expert Belt. It really has all the things you want on a Pokemon. And that's why it's an A tier. It's only an A tier and not S tier because it's Mightyanna, and Mightyanna's stats hold it back. But it is very good. Next we have Beautifly. Beautifly is a combo Pokemon. You can use it by itself, but it's not super great by itself. If you bring this thing with the combo though, with the Solar Beam combo, you can definitely make it good. So I'm gonna put it at closer to like the top of. I'll put it in like the mid of D tier because of that. But because it can't set up its own sun for Solar Beam, it kind of falls apart a little bit. It's a pretty decent combo Pokemon. You get it in the same team that you get Blossom. So if you play doubles Gateway, when you get this thing, you can just kind of throw this thing out here and throw it out with Blossom. and then Blossom uses Sunny Day, and this thing spams out Solar Beams. It does have the Power Herb. It can get off one Solar Beam, but if you don't have Sunny Day, you're going to be relying on Silver Wind and Gust, which if you're relying on Silver Wind and Gust for damage, it's not very good. It also has Roost, but let's be honest, this thing's not living 2 hits anyway, so it's pretty bad. In terms of that. In terms of taking hits, it's not actually doing. So that Roost really is a wasted move slot for most of the time. Not every time. Occasionally, you'll get a good chance to use Roost, but Beautifly, it's another Pokemon held back by its stats. A lot of Pokemon are held back by their stats, or they're held back by their moves, and they can't overcome it with the other. And this is one of those Pokemon. Non-stab Solar Beam just isn't strong enough, which is really sad because it's a 120 base power move on its better attacking stat, and it's still not strong enough. That's how weak Beautifly is. Next up is Goldbat. I think Goldbat, of the 3 flying type Pokemon, or of the 4 flying type Pokemon you get in this game. Oh no, wait, you get 5 flyers. You get Butterfree or Beautifly. You get 5 flyers. Wow, you get 5 flyers. No, you get 6 flyers. Why do they make all the flying types good? Except for obviously this one. I think Beautifly is the worst flyer, and it's D tier. It's not even like unusable. All the flyers are good. So Golbat kind of files under the same section that B-Barrel is, but B-Barrel has better base power moves, which is why Golbat's below it. Golbat has Bite, Wing Attack, U-Turn, and Zen Headbutt. There's Bite, Wing Attack, U-Turn, and Zen Headbutt. 4 attacking moves, and if they gave this thing a choice band, it would have been so good, but they gave it a Lumberry, which is... Well, I mean, Lumberry isn't bad, but there's a difference between like being good and like being like not good. I like the Lumberry just fine, but I think it definitely man, if they only gave this thing a choice band. It's decent. It's certainly usable. U-Turn is great. We already talked about how useful it is. It's not as useful as it is on Staravia because this thing doesn't have Intimidate. I think it has Inner Focus, which is okay. But it's got things that it can definitely do. It deals pretty decent damage, but I find that it's just under the amount to actually kill things in one hit, which is a little unfortunate. So it's really a revenge sweeper because it's fast and does decent damage. And like if they try and burn you, you can be like, haha, Lumberry. But I don't know. It's not bad. It's certainly viable. I think throughout all the mid game, and I think even into the end game, I think you can definitely get away with using this thing and feel pretty confident about it. It's not bad. Blossom's the other part of the combo team. It's part of that Sunny Day team I've mentioned before. The one with Beautifly and Charmeleon and Monferno. There's one more Pokemon in that team that we haven't talked about yet. Or arguably one other one. There's 2 other ones, arguably, but I think it's not one of them. But I don't know. It's okay. Blossom, it's a Sunny Day setter. It has Chlorophyll. It doesn't have Solar Beam though. It has Energy Ball, which to be fair, the stab 90 base power attack is nice. I was just talking about that's what made Haunter so good. And to be honest, if Blossom was faster, this Pokemon would easily be B tier. But I think it's just under that. It's just too slow. Even in Chlorophyll, it's just too slow. It has to take a turn to set up, which sometimes it just dies because it's not that tanky. It's just not that good. But I don't know. It's not bad. It certainly isn't bad. You can use it. I think it's really because it can set up its own sun and doesn't have to rely on sun in order to do things. Like this Pokemon relies on sun, the sun that it can't set up. This Pokemon doesn't rely on sun and can set up sun for itself, which is very nice. Sneasel. So I think Sneasel's the best Pokemon I didn't use. I used Sneasel a little bit, and I thought it was really derpy, but I actually, as it turns out, this is like a speedrunner's god. This is one of the best Pokemon for speedrunning, so I'm going to put it in A tier because of that. And it's for all the reasons you expect. All the same reasons why Monferno is up here. Sneasel, it's fast, it has good coverage, it hits hard, it has the focus sash, so it can't immediately die. Like, everything you'd expect. I see no reason to spend time on Sneasel. It's Sneasel. Actually, I do. It has counter. Really, really weird thing. It's counter sash, which can kill anything if it doesn't get targeted twice in a double battle. Typically, you're never going to use it, but it's good. It's good for all the reasons you would expect it to be good. Sneasel is a good Pokemon. It's very good for speedruns of this game, from what I understand. I've never speedrun this game, so I don't know if it's good. But it's very good. It is good. I thought about using it like multiple times. But it's pretty good. You get in the mid game and you're pretty much going to use it for the rest of the game. Next up, you have Lopunny. Lopunny is it's not good. I think Lopunny is worse. Yeah, I think Lopunny is one of the worst Pokemon in the game. I think it's very bad. So what does it have? It's fast. That's about the extent of the good I have to say for it. It's fast. It has Drain Punch. Those are good things to have. The big problem is that it doesn't really do anything. It can deal damage with Drain Punch. It has the big root to restore health, restore additional health with Drain Punch. It's kind of like what it wants to do, and it kind of wants to be like a fast wall, but it's a Lopunny, so it doesn't really have the defensive stats to wall. So they had to give it defense curl, but like at the same time, it's defense curl. And then it has Mirror Coat, which can reflect special attacks, but like you have to read a special attack from the opponent's Pokemon, and there's not that many special attackers in the game, and it's that, and it probably dies to anything that's super dangerous, right? And then its other attacking stab attacking option is Dizzy Punch, which is really inconsistent in terms of whether or not it actually can do anything. It isn't good. It isn't good. It has good coverage. Fighting normal is good coverage, but it just I don't know. It just doesn't do enough damage to like do anything with its super weak moves. Next we have Lumineon. Lumineon's pretty bad. I think it's the second best rain setter in the game. I don't like Lumineon. It knows Surf. That's the really claim to fame that Lumineon has, is that it has Surf. And it's also fast. That alone, people would say, wow, this Pokemon must be good because it's fast and it has Surf. And then you realized, oh, wait a minute. It has a really, really low special attacking stat. Why is it special attack stat abysmal? Like, there's a reason people don't use Lumineon. It's not even that fast. It's fast-ish. It's faster than your other rain Pokemon, like, that's for sure, but still slow. It's not slow, but it's not winning any records in terms of speed. But it has Surf, and it really only has Surf. It also has Psybeam, but Psybeam's less good. Surf hits your opponent in doubles battles, and there's a lot of double battles upcoming. And if you have Protect, that's fine, but not every Pokemon has Protect. And because your only single targeting move is Psybeam, and you have no Pokemon with Water Absorb or Dry Skin, there's no way to like have safe swaps into Surf. So you're just gonna have to hit your teammate, which I mean I guess is okay because Lumineon doesn't do that much damage. But then you're also not doing that much damage to your opponent. It's just, what does this thing do? Spam Captivate? No, Captivate's bad, and there's nothing else this thing can do except for set up rain. Like, it's, I mean, it just doesn't do anything. It's bad. It's not the worst, but like, I don't know. This Pokemon's bad. Some people say he's good, probably. There's some people who think this Lumineon is actually good in the context of this game because all the Pokemon you get are bad. And you don't have other access to Surf, so therefore it's good, because Surf is good. And, like, it's carried by Surf. And like, in the Magma Coliseum, it probably would have been pretty good. Because that's a singles Coliseum. So I think in that regard, it definitely has its usability there. And I think, for that alone, it being useful in one Coliseum in endgame, or not in endgame, but in late game, I think that warrants E tier. I guess that probably warrants D tier. Because it is useful at times, I guess, but it's very minimally useful. And that's the end of the mid tier Pokemon, the mid game Pokemon. Yeah, and no, I don't think like Lumineon is useful in any of the mid game Coliseums, which I think is hilarious. So next we have Machoke. These last ones are late game Coliseums. You get these are late game Coliseums only. You get these through the trade battle, not the trade battle. You get these through the rental battles in Gateway Coliseum, just like all the other ones. You get them just before the Magma Coliseum. And they are, as we would say, not the best. In general, there's a few very good ones though, but you just kind of I feel like a lot of these days, like, hey, this would have been really good in the past couple areas, but they just don't have it now because it's too late. And Machoke is one of those. It's just too late. It's a no guard dynamic puncher, but it's Machoke, so it's slow. It can take a hit, so you can probably get off a dynamic punch. And after that, you're pretty much playing a game of, oh, did I confuse them? No? Then I guess I lose. And it's like, oh, did I confuse them? Well, did they hit themselves in confusion? No? Then I lose. And then if it's yes, then I win the exchange. So it's a 50-50 Pokemon. And because it's a 50-50 Pokemon that just kind of kills things, I think that warrants C tier. But it's really a one Pokemon takedown that gets completely walled out by physical walls and ghost types. It also struggles a lot against flyers, which there's a fair amount of. Next we got Sudowoodo. If this was a singles only 6v6 format, this would be the best Pokemon in the game. That's why? Because it has Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks is a 6 Pokemon move. And unfortunately, this is a game where singles is 3v3s and doubles is 4v4s. So it's very hurt by the format it plays in. However, it's not all bad. While that's disappointing, it still has Stealth Rocks, and Stealth Rocks definitely still has a place. Entrance trapping is good, and I think it will remain to be so, right? Even though you get less mileage out of it in this game than you would in 6v6 formats. However, what it does also have is Rockslide. Rockslide is an incredibly good doubles move. It's the only Pokemon in the game that gets Rockslide, and it is definitely killer. I considered bringing this Pokemon into endgame. I considered bringing this Pokemon into the Courtyard Coliseum as well. I decided against it both times. Endgame being Stargazer Coliseum. So I thought about bringing it both times. And I didn't, but that's not because this thing is bad. It's just because this thing has issues that I'm not sure if I was prepared and comfortable to deal with. But I think in hindsight, I think I could have brought this thing, and I think it would have been totally fine. It's a pretty decent physical wall as well. It has Fire Punch for 100% accuracy when you really need to kill something. And you don't trust Rock Slide to hit, which that happens. So yeah, it's definitely not bad. Next up, we have Piloswine. I think Piloswine, this is probably one of Piloswine's worst appearances. Just because it doesn't have any like really good ice move. It has Ice Fang, which is alright. It's the only heal setter in the game. And I think it's the only ice type that they give you in the game. So it's really no point to really give you Hail. It's actually useful in post-game. I actually think this Pokemon's good in post-game. Because in post game you can do trade battles and you can steal opponents' Pokemon. You can steal opponents' rental Pokemon, and if you grind there enough, you can actually pull really, really good Pokemon. And Piloswine can be a pretty decent hail setter for those. Because there's a lot of ice types that are good that you can pull from there. So it's actually really good in post game. But we're not talking about post game. We're talking about the main story. We're talking about the main game. Because no one plays rental Pokemon post game. They really don't. If you're playing post game with rental Pokemon, the power to you. You're insane, and I respect you. But that's not what we're here to talk about. And because that, this Pokemon is probably only D tier. Actually, no, I'll put it in C tier. I think it's as good as Machoke. It's got Earthquake. It's the only Pokemon with Earthquake. And it has Ice Fang, which is pretty good coverage. Not gonna lie. Its other moves are Hail, and I'm blanking on its last move. Body Slam. Body Slam's kind of meh, but it's 100% accurate single targeting move, so it's got that going for it. It also can paralyze, so that's cool. It's a tank. It's a decent swap in. It's strong enough to take a few full rounds of gang attacks and doubles. So it's a viable tank, and it can deal decent damage if you pair it with your flying types, or a Haunter. Earthquake's not going to hit them, so it has that going for it as well. It just has that wasted move slots. You're really never using anything that's not Earthquake or Ice Fang on this thing. So it has 2 wasted move slots that they could have given such better moves. And it does hurt it back. And also, it's not fully evolved and all that. But not like Piloswine is particularly weak, even when it's not fully evolved. Because it definitely can, hurt. It hurts. It can hurt things. Next, we have Hypno. I think Hypno is actually very good. I think Hypno is an A-tier Pokemon. I think it's the best defensive Pokemon in the game. I feel like, yeah, I think everything above it's better. Hypno, what does Hypno have going for it? Well, it's got Zen Headbutt, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, and Hypnosis. Along with the Leftovers, which is one of the better items in the game. So it has a lot of cool stuff, right? And I really like all that. Wait, did I say Piloswine was the only ice type in the game? How did I forget about Sneasel? It's right up here. I'm a fool. I'm a foolish person. Okay, back to Hypno. So Hypno, Ice Fire Psychic is pretty good coverage. I don't think it's as good as the Ice Fire Dark coverage, and its ability is Forewarn, which is way less good than Intimidate, which is hence why it's that much lower than Mightyanna, despite its stats being way better than Mightyanna's. But Hypno definitely has that, and it's got Fire Punch, so it's Fire Punch, Ice Punch, great coverage. It's the Elemental Fang coverage, but it's stronger and 100% accurate. They're just better moves. And then of course Zen Headbutt. Zen Headbutt suffers from inaccuracy problems because it's only 80% accurate, I think, or is it 90% in this game? I don't remember. But it suffers from inaccuracy problems. I missed it too much in my playthrough. And Hypnosis also struggles to hit, but... So you have risky options, and then you have safe options. And you have a lot of super effective moves between those 3 types. And because of that, this thing pretty much can 2-hit KO a lot of Pokemon. And it's tanky enough to take a lot of hits. With the Leftovers can bring it back. It's got a lot of good. There's a lot of good with Hypno. I don't think it's the best Pokemon in the game or anything, but... It's got strength. For sure, it has strength. Not the move strength, but it's strong. There's a reason that you can use it and get away with it. Next we have Camerupt. If this thing had Earthquake and not Magnitude, I think it would probably be in C tier, but unfortunately, I'm gonna put it in E tier. It's an E tier because it has Magnitude. It's Magnitude, Yawn, Will-O-Wisp, and Lava Plume. Lava Plume's alright, but it hits your teammate, and without anyone with Flash Fire, you can't absorb that, so it's always going to do damage to your teammate in doubles, which is the majority of the remaining of the game. At this point, there's only 3 Colosseums left, and 1 is singles, 2 is doubles, so it's not good. It's okay in Magma, I guess, if you wanted to bring it, but even then, it's really slow because it's Camerupt. and that has a lot of fire types, which you're not really going to be able to hit unless you get lucky with Magnitude. But then again, then you're relying on Magnitude, and relying on Magnitude is not something you necessarily want to do, because sometimes it's just Magnitude 3, and you do, like, no damage. You know? Maybe it's just because I'm unlucky, and I don't like luck-based moves, but I'm not big on this Pokemon. Will-O-Wisp is cool, but it's also 85% accurate, and you also have Yawn, and they give you 2 status moves on a Pokemon that's not really strong enough to take a lot of hits, because it's 4 times weak to water. It's weak to ground. 2 very common types. I don't know. They had a plan with this Pokemon, but I don't know what it was. Actually, it's probably, even then, it's probably as good as Charmeleon, so I'll put you here. I think you're better than these Pokemon, even though I think you've got consistency issues. I'm gonna put Muck in C tier. I think Muck is probably towards the top of C tier. What does Muck have? Muck is Muck. It's got good stats, decent attack stat as well. Its defense is a little mediocre, but they gave it Curse, so it can buff its attack and defense at the same time. It's like a bulk up strategy, but with like worse bulk up is what you'd want to do with it. The problem is they did not give it Poison Jab. They gave it Sludge, so it suffers from the Gabite Metang issue of, oh yeah, my stab move is not my better stat. But they did Muck really dirty by making its stab move Sludge and not Sludge Bomb. Its other moves are Shadow Punch and Brick Break. Not super amazing. Brick Break's decent coverage because you have very little fighting type moves. Other than Machoke if you want to use it. So I guess that's nice, but it's far from making this Pokemon really good or anything like that. But it certainly isn't bad. I think it's average. Yeah, I think it's average. It's definitely viable for endgame. You can use it in the... When you get it, you can plop it into your team, and it's going to do just fine. If you had this thing earlier, I'd probably rate it higher. Not too much higher, but I'd have more positive to say about it. You just get it too late, and it just isn't that good. So next we have Seizure. Seizure is the second worst Pokemon in the entire game. So this is, Seizure is Crit God. That's really what it does. It has Sniper. It has Focus Energy, and it has a Scope Lens. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, this is a luck Pokemon. And it really is. The problem is, even you can't get off Focus Energy. That's the problem. You can't get off Focus Energy in singles. And this Pokemon's a complete liability in singles. In doubles, you can pair it up with Togetic. Togetic will use Follow Me, and this thing has time to set up. But even then, because it doesn't have Surf or any multi-hitting move, it just doesn't... You can't deal with things fast enough. And this thing will just die because it's super frail because it's Seizure. It's just so bad. It's very bad. 1 Staraptor out of 10. I think it is the second worst Pokemon in the game. It's right next to Luxio. It's so abysmal. It's so abysmal. Next we have Togetic. Togetic is the best doubles Pokemon in the entire game. The problem with Togetic is that it's only a doubles Pokemon. And that's why I'm putting it in B tier. This thing, it's got a really gimmick set outside of Follow Me, which is not Rock Tomb. Ancient Power, Silver Wind, Flamethrower, and it relies on Serene Grace to proc those. And if you can proc those, you can pop off. But I literally procced Ancient Power once. And Silver Wind 0 times when I played through this game. So, you know, I'm not lucky. So it's not good for me. But even despite all of that and all my issues with inconsistencies, Follow Me is busted. Like, Follow Me is such a good move. You do not understand. If you've not played doubles, ever, then play it. Use and grab a Pokemon with Follow Me, and grab a Sweeper, something with Earthquake, and you will see just how busted it is. It's so ridiculous. Follow Me is so powerful. Follow Me literally carries this Pokemon to B tier. This Pokemon would be an E tier. If, like, probably mid-low E tier. But it has Follow Me, so it's instantly busted. I think it sucks in singles. And I think this is as strong as you can be as a Pokemon. Like, this is the best I would ever rate a Pokemon that is only good in one format in a game that revolves around both formats. And I think this is the best doubles Pokemon in the game. Because it basically gives you time for all of these Pokemon to do whatever they want. Or even these Pokemon. It gives you time for your sweepers to do whatever they want. It gives you time for your setup Pokemon to set up. It's so good. It gives you time to heal. Like, use Roost on... Well, I mean, Roost on this thing. It's the only thing with Roost. But, like, it's so good. Follow Me literally carries. Next we have Pikachu. Pikachu is a case of too little too late. This Pokemon's very bad. I don't think it's the worst Pokemon in the game, but... It's Light Ball. It's Light Ball, Fake Out, Brick Break, Discharge. What's its last move? I don't remember what its last move is. Protect. So it has Protect, so that's cool. You can pair it up with a ground type, like Sandslash, and it does alright, because Sandslash doesn't have, like, Earthquake. And even if you want to use, like, Piloswine for Earthquake, you can do Earthquake, like, Discharge and alternate every other turn. It definitely has, like, that, and definitely cool combos that you can do with it, like that. It also has Fake Out, which can help stall. The problem is this thing dies in one hit. To just about everything, because you get it so late. This thing would be a terrifying menace in early game. Like, I'm going to be honest, this thing would destroy early game and probably be able to hold up really well in mid game, but it just is so bad beyond that. And you get it beyond mid game, and that's the problem. It's too little too late. It actually does do, still, even in late game, it does really good damage against a lot of Pokemon, but it just isn't strong. It isn't strong enough. Next we have Dugtrio. Dugtrio is really strange. I don't really know where I want to place it. It doesn't have Earthquake, so blah blah blah, same deal, right? Its coverage is Slash and Shadow Claw. Slash isn't very good. Shadow Claw is basically better Slash. It can hit Ghost types, which oftentimes have Levitate, and it can one-shot Haunter, so that's really cool. But it's still Slash. It's like still 70 base power, not Stab. So it's just kind of mediocre, I think. It just doesn't have the moves that, like, Dugtrio, like, really needs to be really good. I think it's alright. But I think it's nothing special. And, like, you could use it, and I think it's usable, but I think it's about as usable as all these Pokemon are, right? Maybe it's worse because you don't get it early. Yeah, I think it's worse because you don't get it early. But I think it's, like, better than Pikachu, and I think it's better than these Pokemon. But I don't know, it's straddling that usability threshold. When your best move is luck-based, it's really hard to say. Next we get Vespiquen. Vespiquen is one of the better tanks in the game. On paper, when I was originally looking at the Pokemon and what you can do in this game, I originally thought Vespiquen was going to be the best defensive Pokemon in the game, because it's Vespiquen. It has really good defensive stats, and I wasn't expecting a lot of Pokemon. And you get it so late that I imagine, oh, they definitely put IVs into this thing, because they give it to you at the very end. They probably, like, this thing is designed to be used in endgame, and that's its purpose. It's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think. It's like the ultimate weapon. Like if you play, like, a Final Fantasy, they give you, like, the magic sword, right? Like the really strong weapons at the end of the game, so you can deal with the final boss. Or in Fire Emblem, they give you like your like Grotto character, the one that's specifically designed to help you beat the final level. He's super strong, and it's ridiculous. And Vespiquen does that. So that's what Vespiquen is supposed to be. It's supposed to help you deal with the last areas in the game. And that's what I feel like its purpose is. And I think it does that purpose satisfactorily. I don't think it's great about it, but I think it does it well enough. Except that would be a lie, because I literally brought it once into battle. I brought it once into battle. I'm actually going to put it lower. I brought it once into battle, because Vespiquen... No, I'm going to put it in C tier. Vespiquen, its type is so bad. It's weak to everything. Bug flying sucks. There's a reason, like, Mega Pinsir was the only really, really good bug flying type we've ever had. And even then, he wasn't that great. And Vespiquen, it's good because it's a defensive tank. And it's the best in terms of stats and defensive tanking. But it falls under the wayside to Pokemon that aren't necessarily defensive tanks, like Pidgeot and Hypno and Togetic, because its typing is abysmal. And, I mean, it is one of the 2 Pokemon that has the ability to heal itself, alongside Beautifly, and it's way better than Beautifly in that regard, with Heal Order, which is very nice. It's got Heal Order, it has Attack Order, Aerial Ace, stuff like that. And Confuse Ray is its last move. And no, I'm going to put it back in B tier. That's a good move pool. Like, it's just, on paper, this Pokemon is really good. And then in practice, it is just way less good. And that's what, I don't know. I only used it once. After I got it, after I spent 4 hours in the Gateway Coliseum trying to get this pass. Because the pass was, what's the pass? It's Vespiquen, Seizure. What is the pass? The pass is Seizure, Togetic, Pikachu, Dugtrio, Vespiquen, and Chirim. It's a terrible rental pass. It has one good Pokemon, and that is Vespiquen. And Vespiquen literally carried me on the route that it won, and it was very good. But that was also, I recognize, that was literally perfect opponents. Because this thing definitely can fall apart. And even then, I got lucky with my other Pokemon doing things. And finally, we have Chirim. Chirim is a doubles Pokemon. It's part of the Sunny Day team. That's good. I think it's better than, like, Blossom. It's arguably better than Blossom. It has Solar Beam, but it doesn't have Sludge Bomb, which Blossom has. But it does have Helping Hand, which is cool. It's the only Helping Hand user in the game, and they give it to you at the very, very end for some reason. This is another Pokemon where if they gave it to you earlier, it would have been very good, and unfortunately they didn't. But it kind of invalidates Blossom, so I guess in that regard, it's the superior grass type, but you could just run both. If you wanted to, like, do, like, the Sunny Day team with, like, Chlorophyll, and then you have Flower Glyph, and then you got Beautifly, which does that, and then you got Fire-type move boosted Monferno, and then you can kind of pop off with those, right? And that can kind of pop off, but you do have 4 Pokemon that are weak to flying if you do that, so you do need to probably bring, like, Camera up to help. There's definitely cool stuff you can do with, like, the Sunny Day build. The problem with the Sunny Day build is that it does not have the best Pokemon in it, except for, like, Monferno, and maybe Pidgeot if you wanted to, like, Tailwind. To make sure you're faster than everything, which you will want to do, so, I don't know. It definitely has strategies that can make this thing good, and that's why it's in C tier. But even at its best, it's not the best. Or even close to it. So anyway, that's, So I guess final thoughts. So now that I have everything ranked, final thoughts. Best singles Pokemon is Haunter. Best doubles Pokemon is Togetic. And pretty much your final team is probably going to consist of all of these, and you're just going to not use most of everything else. You can get away with anything. Probably Piloswine is probably, I think, the worst Pokemon that's viable for endgame. Maybe you could say, hey, one of these down here is viable if you like use like Rotom, and then you get like two stat buffs of all your stats with Ominous Wind, and then he's like one of the best Pokemon. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you could. That's like purely theoretical, and good luck actually getting that, unless you're like super lucky. Which I mean, if you are, good for you. But yeah, pretty much anything like beyond Piloswine, I can't really see being viable in endgame. Because the endgame's pretty tough. Late game is not as bad. I don't know. Endgame wasn't actually that bad, but I also brought like top tiers. Like here's my team was Haunter, Mightyanna, Pidgeot, Monferno, Hypno, and Vespiquen. And they pretty much carried. They really did. They're so good. And, but you could totally use like these Pokemon are like decent. I don't know. I think you're too. I think put you lower. But yeah, this is the final tier list. And those are my thoughts on Pokemon Battle Revolution. I just wanted to, or the Pokemon in Pokemon Battle Revolution. Those are my thoughts. Are they good? No, but there's a few hidden gems, and if you ever do the rental challenge yourself, you'll probably come to similar conclusions that I have. Maybe different ideas down in this section, like C to E tier. I think if you wanted to make the case, some of these should be up and some of these should be down. I think you could, but I think everything else is pretty cut and dry.